If this video has found you, it isn't by accident. Somewhere inside, you already know that. Life has a way of placing the right message in front of us at the exact moment we're prepared to hear it. Consider this your sign. For centuries, wisdom keepers spoke of a sacred word, not a slogan, not a mantra, but a living current of energy. They believed that vibration is the fabric of the universe, and when a word is spoken with alignment, it can bend that fabric toward creation. This isn't about wishful thinking or empty affirmations. It's about remembering a vibrational code passed down through time, hidden in plain sight, waiting for those ready to use it. Today, we'll explore that code together. You'll see why your voice has always been more than sound, why every phrase you speak has the power to connect you with reality itself. And by the end, you may realize that nothing in your life has ever been random, not even this moment. You were meant to hear it. From the very beginning, every human being carries something extraordinary, an inheritance so natural that most of us overlook it. We arrive in this world as living echoes of a creative vibration, designed to speak life into being. Yet almost as soon as we take our first breath, that gift begins to slip from our memory. Think back to childhood. Instead of being celebrated for our innate power, we were often surrounded by voices that told a different story. Parents trying to protect us, teachers enforcing rules, religious figures preaching guilt, and even television or culture itself all repeated the same refrain, that we are fragile, flawed, and never quite enough. Over time, those voices shaped a field around us, a subtle atmosphere that convinced us we had no right to create with confidence. The words we absorbed became the words we spoke. What should have been expressions of possibility turned into confessions of fear. Instead of declaring, "I can," we learned to say, "I shouldn't" or "I can't." Each repetition carved deeper grooves in our subconscious until the voice of creation was buried beneath the noise of self-criticism. And here's the heartbreaking truth. This wasn't your fault. The world you were born into was already echoing with centuries of borrowed beliefs. People passed them down not out of malice, but because they, too, had been taught to shrink themselves, to fear their own light. It was the only language they knew. When you begin to see it this way, a wave of recognition sets in. You realize that your silence, your hesitation, your tendency to doubt yourself weren't personal failures. They were the result of a system that programmed you to forget the inheritance you were born with. The gift of conscious manifestation, the ability to shape reality through word and vibration, was never destroyed. It was simply covered over, waiting for you to remember. Imagine growing up with invisible codes being written into you, long before you ever had the chance to question them. These weren't carved in stone or handed down as sacred wisdom. They came in whispers, in rules, in everyday corrections. A teacher telling you not to speak too loudly, a parent reminding you not to want too much, a preacher warning you that ambition was sinful. Over time, those messages wove themselves into unconscious mantras you didn't even know you were repeating. Think of the subtle phrases that slip off the tongue almost without thought. "I'm sorry for bothering you. I don't deserve this. I'll probably fail anyway." Each one seems harmless on the surface, but stacked together, they become a cage, a prison without walls, where the bars are made of words and the lock is built from fear. This is why so many people grow into adulthood feeling small, afraid to step forward, ashamed of wanting more, not because they lack talent, but because somewhere along the way, they were taught to apologize for existing blind. That is the silent imprisonment, when your own voice, instead of freeing you, keeps you bound. And yet, even here, there is hope. The power of the word never vanished. It didn't die when you stopped believing in yourself. It only went quiet, waiting for the moment you'd recognize how deeply those false mantras had shaped you. The prison is real, but the key has always been in your hand. The moment you remember that, the silence begins to break, and the gift you thought was lost starts to stir again. Beneath all the noise you've inherited, beneath the layers of fear and doubt, something inside you has never gone silent. It has waited, untouched, like a spark buried under ashes. That force is not gone. It's dormant, and it's been pulsing quietly, waiting for you to notice. Most people brush up against it without even realizing what they've touched. You've heard the word before, tossed around in children's games and stage tricks. Abracadabra. Maybe you laughed when you said it. Maybe you rolled your eyes when you heard it. But what if that playful sound you dismissed was actually a fragment of one of humanity's oldest creative codes? This is where the mystery deepens, because your voice is not just noise leaving your throat. It's vibration. It's power. It's the one instrument you were born with that can reshape the invisible around you. Every tone carries a signature. Every word carries a frequency. And the universe listens not to the chatter of your mood, but to the vibration your voice sustains. Think of it. The very syllables you speak are like stones tossed into a still pond. They ripple outward, shaping what returns to you. Most people never learn this, and so they keep speaking carelessly, unaware of the worlds they are shaping. But once you begin to sense the dormant force inside your voice, the anticipation builds. You realize you've been holding a key all along, and the question shifts from if it works to how it works. And that's where the true meaning of abracadabra begins to unfold. For centuries, you've heard it whispered in magic shows and fairy tales, painted as nothing more than a trick. Children shouted it while pretending to pull rabbits out of hats. Adults dismissed it as nonsense, a word with no meaning beyond spectacle. Yet the truth is far more unsettling and far more sacred. The word abracadabra did not begin on a stage. It began in temples. In its ancient Aramaic roots, it carried a simple but world-shaking translation. I create as I speak. Not I pretend, not I wish, but I create. Imagine the shock of realizing that a phrase you've heard 1,000 times is in fact one of the oldest vibrational codes of humanity. In mystery schools and healing rituals, this word was never used lightly. It was sung as a command, a password, a way of opening a channel between thought and reality. Priests, healers, and initiates treated it as a tool of creation, not entertainment. They believed that when heart, mind, and body were aligned, speaking, this word was like striking a tuning fork that resonated with the very fabric of existence. So how did something so profound become reduced to a joke? History tells us that whenever knowledge carries real power, it eventually attracts control. Those who understood the force behind the word realized that to rule people, you must first weaken their language. Over time, abracadabra was stripped of its reverence, repackaged as a parlor trick, and fed back to the masses as harmless nonsense. The code was hidden in plain sight, but here's the astonishing part. A code doesn't stop working just because people forget its meaning. The vibration of abracadabra still hums beneath the surface. Even when it's laughed at, even when it's mocked, it remains what it has always been. A reminder that your voice was never meant to be casual background noise. It was designed to be creative fire. When you let that sink in, the word suddenly feels different on your tongue. It's no longer a relic of childhood fantasy. It becomes a sacred act, a bridge between the invisible and the visible. And in that moment, you begin to see why only those who are ready can truly carry the weight of what this word demands. The ancients never treated speech as something casual. To them, a word was not just a sound passing through the air. It was a ritual. Before they spoke, they prepared. There was silence. There was alignment. They centered their breath, adjusted their posture, cleared their hearts. Only then, when the body was still and the soul was steady, did the word leave their lips. Why? Because they understood that a word could act like a blade and a bridge, a blade to sever what no longer served, and a bridge to carry them into the reality they chose to create. Each phrase was seen as a sacred act, capable of cutting through the invisible and reshaping the visible. There was no such thing as just talking. Every sound was an offering, every syllable a seed. Contrast that with how most of us live now. We throw words into the air without a thought, complain without pausing, mute doute under our breath. Those careless words scatter our energy like wind through dry leaves. They weaken our field, turning the voice into noise instead of power. And the more we do it, the more our reality reflects the chaos we've sown. But when a word is spoken with soul, something entirely different happens. It opens like a portal. The vibration carries intention across unseen layers, shaping not just how you feel in the moment, but the reality that begins to gather around you. It is the difference between a hollow echo and a living command. So here is a practice, simple yet powerful. Before you speak a word of importance, before you declare a decision, a promise, a dream pause, take 1 minute of silence. Close your eyes, let your breath settle, and feel your heart come online. Then speak, not from habit, not from fear, but from alignment. That minute of stillness is the down payment that turns ordinary speech into a ritual of creation. This is how words begin to shape reality, not by volume or repetition, but by reverence. And the more you treat your voice as sacred, the more it will treat you as a creator. To be impeccable with your word does not mean to be perfect. It doesn't mean you'll never stumble, never misspeak, never wish you had phrased something differently. Impeccability has a deeper root. It means to speak without sin, and in its original sense, sin was not about morality. It was about missing the mark, falling out of alignment with who you truly are. Every time you complain, you miss that mark. Every time you tell yourself a joke at your own expense, you reinforce limitation. Each time you mutter, "I can't, I'm unlucky," or "nothing ever works out," you've unknowingly cast a spell. Those words are not harmless. They become mantras of scarcity, repeated often enough to harden into reality. The universe does not pass sarcasm. It doesn't laugh along with your self-deprecating humor. It listens to frequency. It translates vibration. What you repeat in frustration or in jest still registers as instruction. And so, without realizing it, many people live inside worlds, built from words they never intended to take seriously. That is why impeccability is less about polishing your vocabulary and more about cleaning your field. It's about refusing to send out commands you would never want answered. To speak impeccably is to stand behind your own voice, to make sure that what leaves your mouth is something you are ready to live with, to embody, to sustain. So here is the challenge. Before you let words escape, ask yourself, am I willing to inhabit this sentence? Am I prepared for this declaration to shape the ground I walk on? If the answer is no, hold it, breathe, wait until your voice can carry what your soul is ready to stand behind. That is the esoteric truth of power. The word does not fail, it fulfills. And if it fulfills complaint, you get more complaint. If it fulfills doubt, you live in doubt. But when it fulfills alignment, when you speak from truth, you step into a field where reality itself begins to listen differently. Being impeccable with your word is not a rule to follow. It is the discipline of remembering that every syllable you speak is an act of creation. For centuries, mystics have spoken about the heart as more than just a muscle pumping blood. Modern science has finally begun to confirm what they knew all along. Researchers at the HeartMath Institute discovered that the electromagnetic field of the heart is the largest in the human body, far greater than that of the brain. It radiates in every direction, influencing not only your own state of being, but the people around you. This is why words that pass only through the mind often fall flat. They can sound clever, they can sound rehearsed, but they rarely change anything. A sentence born in the head is like a map without fuel. It shows direction, but never moves you. When the word is carried through the heart, however, it comes alive. The vibration doesn't just communicate, it transmits presence. You've felt this before, even if you didn't have the language for it. Maybe you heard someone speak a truth so raw that chills ran across your skin. Maybe a line of encouragement brought tears to your eyes. Even though the words were simple, maybe you felt the sudden stillness of being seen without judgment, where your whole body knew the moment was real. Those are signs of the heart field opening, two of words infused with essence rather than noise. This is why the ancients treated the heart as the true gateway to conscious creation. They knew that if the heart was closed, no amount of eloquence could manifest lasting change. But when the heart is awake, when it pulses with trust, empathy, and truth, every word becomes a seed planted in fertile soil. You don't need to be mystical to practice this. Try something simple. Place your hand on your chest, close your eyes, and take a slow, deep breath. On the inhale, feel your heart expand. On the exhale, release the noise of doubt. Then, when you speak, say just one sentence you truly believe. Notice the difference. The resonance will feel heavier, more grounded, as though the word carries weight beyond sound. In that moment, you'll understand why speaking from the heart has always been considered sacred. It is not poetry, it is physics. It is not just communication, it is creation. When the word travels through the heart, it doesn't merely reach ears, it reshapes reality. The ancients spoke of 4 elements: earth, water, fire, and air. These were the pillars of the visible world, the raw materials of existence. Earth gave structure, water brought flow, fire delivered energy, and air carried breath and thought. But they also spoke of a 5th element, one that could not be weighed, touched, or measured. They called it quintessence, the essence beyond the elements, the inner fire that binds them all together. Quintessence is not found in the world outside you. It rises from within. It is the quiet flame that doesn't burn but purifies, the vibration that unites body, mind, and spirit into a single current. When it awakens, you feel it as presence. Time slows, clarity sharpens, and action stops being a reaction to circumstances. Instead, you begin to create from a deeper place, guided not by fear or habit, but by alignment. Think of the moments in your life when everything suddenly clicked, when peace arrived without reason, when love filled you without condition, when your breath felt like it belonged to something larger than yourself. Those were glimpses of quintessence moving through you. It was the spirit taking its rightful place as the conductor of all other forces. That is why alchemists and mystics drew the symbol of a 5-pointed star pointing upward. Each point represented one of the 4 material elements, but the top point stood for spirit, the quintessence, ruling over the rest. It was never meant as a symbol of fear or superstition. It was a reminder that true mastery begins when the higher essence governs the lower, when the invisible directs the visible loine. When quintessence awakens inside you, you no longer chase the world, you shape it. You no longer bow to old patterns, you radiate new ones. The flame of quintessence does not shout, it glows. It does not demand, it holds. It is the presence that steadies your voice, strengthens your choices, and anchors your words in truth. And here lies the longing, to live in that state not as a fleeting moment, but as a way of being. That is the call of quintessence. The call to remember that beyond the noise of the world, beyond even the 4 great elements, there is a 5th that has always been yours. In the mystical traditions of the Kabbalah, creation is not random. It follows a path mapped out in what's called the tree of life. At first glance, it looks like a diagram of circles and lines, but to those who study it, it is a map of how energy descends from the unseen into the seen. It shows 4 distinct worlds: emanation, creation, formation, and action. And every word, every intention you speak, must travel through these worlds before it can take shape in your life. It begins in the world of emanation, where everything is pure essence, just the seed of possibility. From there, it moves into the world of creation, where ideas take on potential form. Then comes the world of formation, where structures are outlined and energy begins to organize itself. Finally, it enters the world of action, the dense material plane where you can touch, see, and live what you once only imagined. The tragedy is that many words never make it all the way down. They dissolve halfway, collapsing between worlds. A prayer whispered in fear may rise in emanation, but never gain form. A wish spoken without alignment may sketch itself in creation, but fade before it reaches action. That is why so many people feel like their words go unanswered, as if their prayers bounce off the ceiling. The truth is not that they were ignored, it's that the path was interrupted. Here lies the lesson. Manifestation is not about saying the right phrase once or repeating it endlessly. It is about sustaining the vibration long enough for your word to travel through every layer of reality. It requires patience, coherence, and consistency. Just as a seed cannot sprout without water and sunlight, a word cannot manifest without alignment across body, mind, heart, and spirit. The tree of life is not only a mystical symbol, it is a reminder of process. When you understand that your voice must carry through each world, you stop treating manifestation as luck and start treating it as practice. And with that realization comes hope. The hope that nothing you've spoken in truth has been wasted. It is still traveling, still descending, still searching for fertile ground. All that's left is to sustain the vibration long enough for it to arrive. At the end of all this, remember one truth. The universe is not swayed by passing wishes or fleeting moods. It responds to the vibration you sustain, day after day, moment after moment. Manifestation is not about learning something new. It is about remembering the power that has always been within you, the inheritance you carried here, the day you were born. So speak not as someone testing an idea, but as someone reclaiming a birthright. Align your heart, your mind, your breath, and let your words carry the frequency of who you truly are. That is how sound becomes substance, how the unseen becomes seen. And now I invite you to take part in the ritual that unites us all. Write in the comments, "I am ready to manifest with awareness." Add your voice to the chorus, not just as words on a screen, but as a declaration that your vibration is alive and present. This journey doesn't end here. In the next chapter, we'll dive deeper into the alchemical method, how to ground this ancient knowledge into daily practice, so your words not only inspire but transform. Until then, hold your vibration steady, because what you sustain is what becomes real.